Mid90s, directorial debut of Jonah Hill, who also wrote the script. The film stars Sunny Suljic, Catherine Waterston, and Luke Hedges. It's this coming of age story mixed with a massively nostalgic piece about the skater culture of the 1990s. The film doesn't really have a strict plot to it, it's more of a snapshot of the time and place of 1990s LA. We follow a young boy named Stevie who is raised by his mom and lives also with his older brother, who he doesn't really connect with in almost any way. One day, Stevie finds himself at a skate shop and overhears a funny conversation between a couple of older teenagers who just hang out there. He then decides, this is it. This is what I want to do in my free time as well. This sounds and looks cool. So he gets his hands on an old skateboard previously belonging to his brother and slowly becomes part of the group. They skate together, they hang out doing nothing together, they go to parties together. And the older boys introduce Stevie to life as they know it, to skating and having fun, but also to alcohol and parties and girls. And as he spends time with them and the friendships develop, he begins to change, to enter adolescence. So the first thing that needs to be said is that the film really looks like it was made as a home video film in the 1990s. The locations, clothes, boards, the way people talk, but most importantly, the way the movie is shot. It was all done on a 16mm film, which gives it a grainy look, but also it was shot in a really narrow aspect, almost square video like television was back in those days. And that works absolutely fantastically and just transports you into that time period. Also, like the best coming of age stories, this one was insanely relatable. And don't get me wrong, there are things that are very specific to the setting of the film, LA skating culture. But I think because the main focus is actually on the characters and their relationships, the film transcends those limitations. It was relatable to me even though I never skated or lived in the US. But something about the way these boys interact and talk to each other and spend time, something about it really clicked with how I was growing up, how I remember it. I think Jonah Hill really manages to tap into this experience of being a kid in the 1990s, which I think is quite rare in film. I was thinking about it, most coming of age stories, at least the classic ones, happen in the 1980s, and the more recent ones, like 8th Grade, which also was released in 2018, are set in the current day. Mid-90s shoots right into that sort of unexplored period of time and does it marvelously. It feels genuine and real and raw. And at times it is quite sad and at times it is quite nostalgic, but at times it also is really heartwarming. There is especially a brilliant scene where Stevie has a conversation with Ray, one of the older skater boys, where for once Ray is more serious and gives some solid advice to the younger boy who looks up to him in many ways. And immediately after, we see the two of them skating together in the sun-soaked streets of LA. Wonderful stuff. Final word from me is about the soundtrack, which uses several songs that also fit the time period really well and accentuate the emotional charge of specific scenes. So I liked the film a lot. I think it's a genuine, honest look into the time period of my own childhood.